Hello, my name is Bailey. Welcome to my channel. Today, as the title suggests, I'm going to be talking about my favorite books of 2020. To preface this, I had a very hard time in 2020 with like favorites and least favorites, and in life I have this problem because like when you put such like a weight on favorites specifically, I feel like I should have like a feeling, like a gut feeling where I'm like, that's a favorite. But I don't really have that with a lot of things. There's a few books here that I do feel like really connected to. The way these were picked is that over the year when I was reading books, I'd put them onto my Goodreads favorite shelf, and so I've just went and refined it a bit, and now this is my stack of 6 books. I actually happen to have 6 favorites and 6 least favorites. I have an easier time picking things that I hate because I happen to hate things a lot more than I like them. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about these books. They're in order from when I read them. But I will tell you which ones are my favorites, because I have 2 that are like my top tier favorites, but I didn't necessarily read them first. So yeah, let's just get into it, because I can already feel myself getting overwhelmed, because every time I stutter, I get upset. So let's go. First we have The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is a classic, if you don't know. I read this at some point. I didn't write down the date that I read this. I actually gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Which is weird for like a favorites quote unquote, but I do think this would be a 5-star. I'm just waiting to reread it and then I'll up my rating. I read this for my ELA class last year. It's probably my favorite book that I've read for class so far. I don't usually actually read books assigned for school because I don't like reading when people tell me to. If you don't know, this book follows a guy named Nick Carraway, and he moves in next to this dude named Jay Gatsby, who has these luxurious parties all the time, and it's following Nick getting involved in Jay's life and what's going on with Jay. Jay basically is obsessed with this ex of his. If you do not know anything about this book, I'd recommend reading it before you get spoiled, because I think that would be good, you know? I got spoiled while I was reading this book for the ending, and it really annoyed me. This book kind of made me stop writing off classics as being like boring or like I'm gonna hate it before I even read them, because like I love this book a lot, and even though like the characters are technically not relatable, I really enjoyed it. A character named Jordan Baker in here, I love her. I think she's just such a powerful and stubborn woman. Really enjoyed that. Daisy can choke. I hate Daisy so much, and I feel like you're supposed to hate her, but I see a lot of people like sympathizing for her because she's like a woman in the 20s, and I'm just like, I don't care. You're trash, you know? It's just like, this book is so unfair, and I hate unfairness. It gets a reaction out of me, so I felt a lot of emotions while reading this book. There's so much injustice, like not even just toward Gatsby, but toward other characters, which I won't specify. But I really enjoyed this. This is definitely my favorite classic of all time, and I really want to reread it, maybe this year. So here's our first favorite, 5 more to go. I actually didn't give a book 5 stars until like March or April. I don't remember which month, but it took a while for me to get a 5-star in there. So I didn't have a lot of quote-unquote favorites for a while, and even then it took a while for me to pick anything as a favorite. But next up we have Arusha and the End of Time by Roshani Chokshi, and Arusha and the Song of Death by Roshani Chokshi. This is the first book, and this is the second book in the Pandava series. I've read the first 3 books. The third book I liked. I didn't love it as much as the first 2. I gave it, I think, 4.5 stars. I gave these both 5 stars, and I'm so excited for the rest of the series. This is a middle grade fantasy series that it's basically like Percy Jackson, but instead of like Greek mythology, it's Hindu culture and mythology, and it is just fantastic, honestly. Basically, the plot of this book, it follows a girl named Arusha. She is a middle schooler, and she has this little habit of telling little white lies to try and make herself a little more interesting, trying to, you know, get attention from her classmates, feel cool, you know what I mean? And she lives at this museum, and one day these kids from her class show up at the museum she lives at, and they call her out on one of her lies, and this causes her to awaken this demon called the Sleeper that is going to destroy the world, and she has to stop this. Now you might be wondering, how does a middle schooler stop a demon? That doesn't seem like it's gonna work out. well. She's actually a reincarnation of one of the Pandava brothers, and she has to team up with her sisters because this time the Pandava brothers have been reincarnated as girls, aka the Pandava sisters. So over the series, she's collecting all of her sisters, and they're coming together to take down the Sleeper and various other antagonists, and I love it. It's just delightful. I felt so many feelings with these books. One, they're just fun. I also love the writing and the culture, like the mythology and the culture and the atmosphere is so whimsical and like magical, quote unquote. Like it's just so fun to read because all of the different environments you're in, like the magical environments, are just so bright and colorful and so descriptive. You feel like you're there. And it's just like so delightful to read. This book has majority South Asian characters. I am also South Asian. And it made me emotional and like made me really happy to get to read about a character who was like me. Because when I was younger, I never really got to read about characters who looked like me. So like my younger middle grade self would have really appreciated this. My older self still appreciates them a lot, but yeah. These are definitely my favorite books of the year. I think that this one is my top favorite, and then this one is my second favorite technically. This book I really loved because the antagonist of this book, like the main antagonist, is such a flawed character, and you don't actually hate them by the end when you understand the reasoning. Like, they're not evil for the sake of being evil, which is one of my pet peeves. They actually have, like, reasoning, and you kind of see from their perspective. And it's really heartbreaking the end of this book as well, because, like, they're a villain, but they also have a sympathetic cause. You kind of see that every story has two sides, and you can't really look from one side, and I just thought it was really, really well done. So, yeah, these two books, I love them a lot. We'll gush about them till the end of time. Next up, we have a new adult romance, or I think just adult romance, and that is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This book follows Chloe Brown, and she is chronically ill, and after a near-death experience, she realizes that she's letting her chronic illness dictate her life, and she wants to get a life and do more exciting things and not live on the edge and live in fear. And she asks for the help of her landlord, his name is Red, to achieve some of the things on her list, and it is a romance between the two, and it is absolutely adorable. I love this a lot. The romance aside, I loved Chloe. She was just such a fun character. She's very organized and she's very witty, and I just really enjoyed reading about her. Red is the male protagonist, and in this book there's a trigger warning for mentions of abuse, and Red was previously in an abusive relationship, and I really liked how the author dealt with that. Also, I liked that, not liked, but it was interesting that Red was the character who had been in an abusive relationship, because we always see the female side, which is probably, I think statistically women are more so in abusive relationships in the physical way, you know what I mean? But I just thought it was interesting to see the perspective of a man who had been emotionally abused. I don't believe he was physically abused. I can't remember that. It's been a while, but he could have been. I don't know. I just really thought that was interesting, and watching his character development and trusting Chloe after this bad relationship, I thought that was handled really well, and I thought that their chemistry and becoming a relationship was very organic, and I believed it. And they were very cute. It's not, I've seen people describe this as enemies to lovers. That is not correct, okay? It's mild dislike to lovers, never any hate. It's not even hate to love. It's not enemies to lovers. They're not enemies. They don't hate each other. They get mildly annoyed by each other sometimes, but I don't like when people label this as hate to love. There's no hate. I really, really want to read the sequel, which is Take a Hint, Danny Brown. I actually own it already. The series follows all three sisters. Chloe has two other sisters, and I'm really excited to continue with it because I just think the writing is super good, and she writes really good romance. I think that the mushy and emotional stuff is just as equal with the smut, which the smut is also really good. But I'm really excited to continue on. I just think Talia Hibbert is a really good author, and I think she writes pretty great romance, so this was great. Next up, we have Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman. This year I read Volume 1 and 2. This is a gay graphic novel about a boy named Nick and a boy named Charlie, and it's all about them becoming friends and then becoming something more. And it's also about Nick kind of questioning his sexuality because Charlie is out as gay already. And Nick is questioning, obviously, with his growing feelings for Charlie. And I think it is adorable. The art style is in itself just super cute and their relationship is very wholesome. Like, this is such a wholesome series, and if you just want something that's gonna lighten your mood, you should read Heartstopper. It's also online, so if you don't want to get like the books, it's online for free. Like, every time I read through these or just flip through them, I just get so happy. It's just so sweet, and especially watching Nick question his sexuality. There is an actual scene in here where he's Googling, am I gay? Here. And I thought that was so realistic to a lot of, especially teens, discovering their sexuality, where you have that like questioning moment and you like start searching these up and taking these quizzes and stuff. I thought it was super realistic and relatable, and it was really sweet to see that. I've never actually seen that in a book before. Yeah, I like his journey with his sexuality a lot. It continues a lot more in the second one, like it's focused on a lot more in the second one. But yeah, this is just great. I haven't read the third one yet. I really need to get my hands on it, but I don't want the American versions, or like the American and Canadian ones, because my first two are the UK ones, so they're like thicker and they don't have color. So I'd rather get these ones, but I don't know how to get my hands on them from Canada. So I'll figure that out, I guess. If you haven't read this, why haven't you? There's no reason not to. It's just sweet, quick, delightful. The last book I have on my favorites is Frostbite by Rochelle Mead. This is the second book in the Vampire Academy series. I read 3 books in the Vampire Academy series last year. I plan to continue and finish the series this year. This series follows Rose and Lisa. Our perspective character is Rose. And in society, like vampire society, there are Dampiers who are half vampire, half human. And then there are Moroi, which are like traditional vampires, like they're full vampire. And then there's Strigoi, which are like bad vampires. And Lisa's a Moroi. Rose is a Dampier. Also, Dampiers are the protectors of the Moroi from the Strigoi. Okay, great. Glad we all got that together. And so Rose and Lisa go to this school. It's a vampire academy, ergo the title. A lot of hijinks ensue. It's an interesting series. It's pretty old in the sense that like it came out in the like 2005 onward, something like that. So it's very tropey, kind of trashy, but I love it. Like, it's dumb at times, but it's easy to read, it's fun to read. I don't know, I think a lot of paranormal stuff kind of comes off cringy at times. I don't think every book has to have a deeper meaning, or every series doesn't have to have a deeper meaning. This is just fun to read. It's fun fantasy. The first book takes place in the first few months of their last year of school. This book takes place over winter break. I just think this book, compared to a lot of fantasy sequels, was paced really well. There wasn't really any lulls in the action. Like, I think the third book had a lot of lulls in the action, which was a little bit annoying. But this one paced delectably. It's hard to explain why I like this book in particular. Like, the pacing, I think, is good. The development of the romance was good. Although I don't like some of the things that were going on with the romance. I can't really explain that to you though. I really liked the ending. It was really action-packed and it was exciting to read, and I didn't know what was gonna happen. Like, usually I can guess, especially with this book and this series, I can usually guess the reveals before they happen. In this ending scene, I couldn't figure out what was gonna happen because I wasn't sure if Rochelle Mead was gonna be killing off characters. Because you never know with some authors, like, they don't like killing off their characters, especially early off in a series. She went off though, like, she was going for it. But I liked actually seeing Rose in action fighting finally, because like, in the first book we're told a lot about her fighting abilities and like how Dampier is trained to be fighters. But Rose doesn't really get to do much with that. In this book, she gets to fight, and I really liked watching, like, actual action, because it's really exciting, like, the way these people fight and the way, like, the vampires and stuff fight is interesting to read, so I like when the action stuff starts up, and yeah, the ending had a lot of that, so I really liked this. This is currently my favorite book in the series. Again, I've only read 3, but this one's on top. So these were my 6 favorites of 2020. Again, I don't feel that much connection to most of these. Like, yes, they were good, but whatever. These 2 are definitely on my favorites of all time list. They did a lot for me in their own, like, story. They were very interesting and fun to read, but also in my own personal attachment to them. They just have a special place in my heart, and I love them a lot, and I'm so excited for the 4th one. The cover is so pretty. Oh my god, you gotta pick these up. They are just beautiful covers, beautiful content, beautiful culture and mythology. Ugh. Here's the favorites. Yay. What was your favorite book of 2020? Do you have a favorite? Do you struggle picking favorites like me? Because I hope I'm not the only one who does. I'm gonna go and try and film my least favorites now, which is probably gonna be a lot more exhausting. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Bailey. Bye.